Picture this. You're finally opening up to her, sharing something real, something vulnerable, something that matters to you. You feel the connection deepening. You think this is the moment where things shift, where she sees the real you, and it brings you closer together. And then you notice it. A subtle shift in her energy, a barely perceptible change in how she looks at you, a distance that wasn't there before. You got close, and somehow you lost ground. What if I told you that every time you get emotionally close to her, an invisible evaluation process activates in her mind? What if I told you that she's not consciously choosing to pull back, but that her biological system is automatically scanning, measuring, and recalibrating your value based on signals you don't even know you're sending? And what if I told you that this system, this automatic scanning process, is why you always seem to lose when you get close, no matter how genuine, how careful, how right your approach feels? This is happening right now in relationships everywhere. Men getting close, thinking they're building connection, and unconsciously triggering an evaluation system that recategorizes them from high value to low value in real time. She doesn't know she's doing it. You don't know it's happening, and yet it determines everything. Before I reveal the 5 invisible readings her system performs every time you get close, drop a comment right now if you've ever felt this, got emotionally close, and somehow lost ground. I need to know how universal this pattern is. Now watch closely, because today, I'm going to show you exactly what she thinks every time you get close, the invisible readings her system performs, and why this automatic process always puts you at a disadvantage, even when you do everything right. I've observed this pattern across every culture and every era for thousands of years. The specific triggers change with time and society, but the underlying mechanism remains identical. Her brain has an automatic scanning system designed to evaluate your status, your strength, your genetic fitness every single time you reveal more of yourself. And proximity, emotional proximity, activates this system more powerfully than almost anything else. What I'm about to reveal will feel uncomfortable, but understanding this invisible process is the only way to stop losing ground every time you try to get close. But here's what you don't see happening. This isn't about her being shallow or calculating or cruel. This is biology operating the low conscious awareness. She genuinely doesn't know her system is doing this, and that makes it more dangerous, not less, because she can't choose to turn it off, and you can't appeal to it with logic or emotion. You can only understand it and work with it, or keep losing every time you try to get close. Here's what happens in her mind the moment you begin to get emotionally close. Reading number 1, vulnerability scan. The instant you open up, share something personal, reveal emotion, her system automatically asks, is this vulnerability or weakness? You think you're showing depth, but her biological system is scanning for the distinction between confident vulnerability and needy exposure. Confident vulnerability comes from a place of strength, a man secure enough to be real. Needy exposure comes from a place of seeking validation, a man who needs her approval to feel whole. And here's the brutal truth. Her system usually reads it as weakness, not because what you shared was wrong, not because you're actually weak, but because the context of getting close activates her defense mechanisms. When you move toward her emotionally, her system interprets it as pursuit, and pursuit implies need, and need implies lower value. So the very act of trying to deepen connection through vulnerability often triggers the exact opposite evaluation. She pulls back not because of what you said, but because her system interpreted the act of saying it as a weakness signal. I've watched this play out across millennia. In ancient societies, in medieval courts, in modern cities, men revealing their hearts, thinking it creates intimacy, and women's biological systems recategorizing those men as less attractive, not consciously, but automatically. The men who maintained desire long-term were never the ones who opened up most. They were the ones who remained partially unreachable, who shared selectively, who never needed the sharing to feel close. Their vulnerability came from surplus, not scarcity, and her system read that difference every time. And this is where it gets worse. Reading number 2, neediness detection. The moment you get close, her system scans for how much you need this closeness. Are you moving toward her because your life is so full and abundant that sharing it feels natural? Or are you moving toward her because she's become the primary source of your emotional fulfillment, your validation, your sense of worth? Her system can detect this difference with frightening accuracy, not through what you say, but through microsignals you don't control. How available are you? How often do you initiate deep conversations? How much do you seem to need her response, her validation, her reciprocation? If her system detects that you need the closeness more than she does, automatically lowers your value, because in evolutionary terms, men who needed a specific woman were men without options, men who couldn't attract alternatives, men whose genetic value was questionable. Her biology doesn't care that you're being emotionally healthy and communicative. Her biology reads need as genetic inferiority. And here's what makes this mechanism so devastating. The more you genuinely care about her, the more your behavior naturally exhibits signs of need. You want to talk to her, share with her, be close to her, all reasonable, all healthy, all human. But her scanning system doesn't evaluate reasonableness. It evaluates signals, and those signals say, he needs me more than I need him, which automatically triggers value reassessment downward. You're being punished for caring, and neither of you consciously realizes it's happening. Here's the trap that destroys good men. Reading number 3, frame scan. Every time you get close, her system evaluates who's setting the frame of the interaction. Are you leading the emotional space, or are you following her lead? Are you the one choosing when to be vulnerable, or are you responding to her prompts, her questions, her emotional demands? This distinction matters more than you realize. When you get close on your terms, at your timing, in your way, her system reads it as strength. When you get close because she pulled it out of you, because you couldn't help yourself, because you needed to share, her system reads it as weakness. I've observed this dynamic in every civilization. The men who maintained long-term desire were always the ones who controlled the frame even in intimacy. They chose when to be vulnerable. They decided when to open up. They led even in an emotional closeness. The men who lost desire were the ones who spilled everything the moment she showed interest, who couldn't contain themselves, who followed her emotional lead. Same level of sharing, opposite outcomes, because her system wasn't evaluating what was shared, but who controlled when and how it was shared. And here is the trap most modern men fall into. You've been taught that emotional availability means being ready to share whenever she wants to connect, that being a good partner means responding to her emotional needs immediately. So when she asks how you're feeling, you tell her. When she wants to talk about the relationship, you engage. When she probes for vulnerability, you open up. All of this seems right, seems healthy, seems like what you should do. But her biological system reads all of it as following her frame, which signals lower status, which reduces attraction. You're doing exactly what you've been told to do, and it's exactly what her system punishes you for. And this is the signal that kills everything. Reading number 4, energy assessment. The moment you get emotionally close, her system scans your energy signature, not the energy you're trying to project, but the energy you actually carry. Are you approaching her from a state of abundance or scarcity? Are you sharing because your cup is overflowing, or because you're trying to fill it through her? Are you emotionally self-sufficient, or are you outsourcing your emotional regulation to her response? Her system reads this instantly, and it determines everything. When you get close from abundance, when your life is full, when you have purpose beyond her, when emotional connection is something you are offering from surplus, rather than seeking to fill a void, her system reads it as high value. You're not close because you need to be. You're close because you choose to be, and that distinction is everything. But when you get close from scarcity, when she's become your primary emotional outlet, when you need her validation, when closeness is something you're seeking rather than offering, her system reads it as desperation, regardless of how well you hide it in your words. I've watched men across thousands of years make the same mistake. They wait until they desperately need emotional connection, until the pressure builds, until they can't contain it anymore. And then they try to get close. And they wonder why it always backfires. Because by the time they're reaching out, their energy is already screaming scarcity. Her system reads it before they say a word, and from that moment, everything they say is filtered through a low-value lens. Same words from different energy states would produce completely opposite results. But they never get that chance because the energy state was set before they opened their mouth. Here's the part: most dating advice, it's dangerously wrong. Reading number 5. Investment evaluation. Every time you get close, her system automatically calculates who's investing more in the emotional connection. Are you the one always initiating deep conversations? Are you the one doing the emotional labor? Are you the one trying to maintain intimacy while she coasts? If her system detects that you're working harder than she is at closeness, it automatically categorizes you as lower value. Because high-value men don't work harder than women at connection. Women work to connect with high-value men. This is the cruel paradox of modern relationship advice. You're told to be emotionally available, to communicate, to work on the relationship, to invest in intimacy, so you do. You initiate vulnerable conversations. You check in emotionally. You try to maintain closeness, and every single time, you do this without her doing it first. Without her working at least as hard, her system registers it as an investment imbalance. An investment imbalance signals value imbalance, and value imbalance kills attraction. You're following the advice perfectly, and the advice is destroying your relationship. I've seen civilizations that understood this. Cultures where men were taught to let women pursue emotional closeness, where masculine energy meant being receptive, but not initiating, where status was maintained by making her work for intimacy rather than offering it freely. Those cultures maintained long-term desire in relationships. Modern culture has inverted this, told men to pursue emotional connection, to be the emotionally available ones, to initiate vulnerability, and modern relationships collapse at unprecedented rates. The correlation is not coincidental. Now here's why you always lose when you get close, even when you do everything right. Her scanning system operates automatically. You cannot convince it with intentions or explanations. You can be the most genuine, most healthy, most emotionally intelligent man. Doesn't matter. Her system doesn't evaluate your intentions. It evaluates signals, and the signals of getting close pursuing, needing, revealing, investing are all signals that her evolutionary system has been programmed for hundreds of thousands of years to read as lower genetic value. You're not losing because you're doing something wrong. You're just playing a game where the rules are invisible, where the scoring system operates below conscious awareness, and where the very act of trying to succeed is interpreted as evidence that you're failing. It's like trying to prove you're confident by constantly saying, "I'm confident." The more you try to demonstrate it, the more you prove the opposite. Getting close works the same way. The harder you try to create intimacy, the more her system reads it as evidence that you need intimacy, which means you lack it elsewhere, which means you're low value. But here's the twist that most men never understand. She doesn't choose this. Her biology does. And her biology doesn't care about fairness. This isn't her fault. This isn't even really about her. This is an evolutionary adaptation that served a crucial function for hundreds of thousands of years. Women who could automatically detect men's true status, who could read past surface presentation to underline reality, who could identify which men actually had genetic value versus which men were. Just trying hard, those women passed on more successful genes. So modern women inherited a hypersensitive scanning system designed to detect exactly what you're trying to hide. that getting close matters to you, that you need the connection, that you're investing more than she is. And here's the darkest truth. The better a man you are, the more this system punishes you. Because truly good men actually care, actually want connection, actually value intimacy, which means they exhibit all the signals that her system reads as neediness. While players, users, men who genuinely don't care, they exhibit none of those signals. They get close only when it's convenient. They never need it. They're always willing to walk away, and her system reads that as high value. So her biology rewards the men who care least and punishes the men who care most, not because she wants that outcome, but because her automatic scanning system can't tell the difference between abundance and indifference. So what do you do with this information? First, share this with men who keep losing ground every time they try to get close. They need to understand this isn't personal failure. It's biological mechanism. They're not broken. They're just triggering an evolutionary system they didn't know existed. Second, understand that getting close must come from genuine abundance, not from need. You cannot fake this. Her system is too good at detection. You must actually build a life so full that emotional connection with her is an overflow, not a necessity, and that means purpose, mission, other relationships, other sources of fulfillment, not as a tactic, but as reality. Third, control the frame of intimacy. Be the one who decides when to get close, not the one who responds to her requests for closeness. This doesn't mean being cold or withholding. It means being selective, intentional, choosing when vulnerability serves the connection rather than spilling whenever she asks. Her system respects boundaries around vulnerability more than the vulnerability itself. Fourth, watch the investment ratio carefully. If you find yourself initiating emotional depth more than she does, pull back immediately, not as manipulation, but as recalibration. High-value men are pursued for intimacy. They don't pursue it. If you're always the one trying to get close, you're signaling low value, no matter how perfectly you execute it. Fifth, understand that proximity must be balanced with distance. Her system needs unpredictability to maintain attraction. If you're always available, always open, always ready to connect, you become predictable. And predictability kills the scanning system's interest because it signals you have nowhere else to be, nothing else going on, no other options. The men who maintain long-term attraction are always slightly unreachable, always have something going on, always have a life beyond her, not because they're playing games, but because they actually do. Here is the uncomfortable truth I've learned watching humanity for millennia. You cannot win the closeness game by traditional rules. The moment you try to get close in ways she expects, in ways you've been taught, in ways that seem healthy and right, you activate her scanning system in ways that categorize you as lower value, not because you are lower value, but because the signals of pursuit need vulnerability and investment are signals. Her system has been trained by evolution to read as genetic inferiority. The only men who maintain attraction while getting close are men who don't need the closeness, who offer it from abundance, who control its timing and intensity, who make her work for it, who remain partially unreachable, even in intimacy. This isn't manipulation. This is understanding how her biological system actually works and working with it instead of against it. You can rage against the unfairness of this system, or you can understand it and adapt. The choice determines whether you keep losing ground every time you try to get close, or whether you finally understand why closeness has always been a trap. What she thinks every time you get close is not what you hope she thinks. She's not thinking he's so open and emotionally healthy. Her automatic scanning system is asking, does he need this? Is he pursuing me? Is he investing more than me? Is his energy abundant or scarce? Is he leading this or following me? And based on the answers, her system detects not what you say, but what you signal. She recategorizes your value, usually downward, usually permanently. And she doesn't even consciously know she's doing it. The problem isn't you. The problem is that you trying to build intimacy using methods that her evolutionary system interprets as weakness signals. You're being genuine, vulnerable, invested, available. All good things in a rational world. But her system isn't rational. It's ancient, automatic, and ruthlessly efficient at detecting men who need connection versus men who choose it, and it punishes the need every single time. The men who understood this across every era, I've observed, maintain desire by never needing closeness, by offering it selectively, by making her pursue intimacy while they remain just out of reach, not as strategy, but as natural result of having a life too full to center around any one woman. That's the truth about closeness that no one tells you. Getting close triggers her scanning system. Her scanning system evaluates signals, not intentions. The signals of getting close are the signals of need, and need is the ultimate attraction killer. You've been taught to get close to build connection, but every time you do it the way you've been taught, you trigger a biological evaluation process that recategorizes you as less desirable. Not because you're less desirable, but because you're exhibiting the signals her system has been programmed to read that way. This is why you always lose when you get close. The game is rigged at the biological level. The question is, now that you know the rules, can you play differently? I'll be watching.